We're at the ruins of the old Rockpoint Mill. It's in the Dayton State Park. This mill was constructed in 1861 to process ore from the Comstock lode, which came from Virginia City and other mines in the area. If you look right there, you can see where the stamps were located on those foundations. And up behind me, you can also see the walls that belong to part of the structures that were out here. Water was actually brought over here. Just over that way is the Carson River. So they brought water from the Carson River utilizing a series of water flumes and a dam. There are two main ways to access the mill ruins. One of the ways is you can park in the parking lot of the Gold Ranch Casino on the north side of Highway 50 and walk in along the trails, which either go along the top of the berms or along the ground level, which used to be the bottom of the large retention ponds. You can also park at the Dayton State Park and walk in via the concrete-lined tunnel that runs under Highway 50 and comes out near the ruins, with one of the first spots you'll see being an old cave. One of the first things you'll notice when you come through the tunnel under Highway 50 from the Dayton State Park is this cave right here. This was explained to us by a local historian as being a magazine that housed either gunpowder, dynamite, maybe even blasting caps. And there's also one just around the corner. So let's head over there and I'll show you that one. And here's the other one right here. This one was a little bit better finished. It actually had a brick structure on the outside of it. There's even some remnants of siding that's on the ground right here. Right down there. So I guess they would have stored the dynamite in one and maybe the blasting caps in the other. You definitely wouldn't want those stored together because that could be a bad experience for everybody. And I guess this area, it's also got a nickname called the Hermit's Cave. Apparently someone lived here inside this cave even until the 1990s. So I think we should go inside and take a look at it. Wow. It's definitely a little cave. I can't imagine someone actually living inside here though. But I guess if that's all you have to live, that's all you have to live in. Structure of the door is pretty solid. The boards are pretty thick. Looks like the old style timber, actual 2 inches thick. You can see the brick structure inside here. The floor is mostly dirt. It's all dirt. A lot of little boulders. Yeah, not a lot of space in here. The first thing you see when you walk out of this old magazine is the enormous foundations that the mill stamps were mounted on. Nettie and I spent a good deal of time checking these out. We were impressed with the hardware and wood beams that are still in place. The concrete that the foundations were made from has definitely worn down in places, but is still plenty solid. I'm standing on the old foundations that the stamps were on inside this mill. And just by me standing here, it might give you an idea just how large these structures were. I mean, look down at this piece of hardware. This nut and bolt that's there, that's massive. Each one of these stamps that were located on these foundations had 5 crushers built in, and the ore would come through and they crush it up into a fine powder. It made it easier to extract the gold and silver out of it. That brings me to another thought. I can only imagine how loud it was inside this building when all of the stamps were going at the same time, but that does give me an idea. I think I can do something so you all can have a listen to maybe get an idea just how loud it might have been inside this mill when they were all going together. I don't know about you, but that was pretty loud. I can't imagine having to be in there when that was all going at the same time. In 1909, this mill burned down and it was rebuilt in 1912 by the Hoteling Estate Company. And it was rebuilt of concrete and steel to help prevent any further damage from fires. And one of the neat things about coming out here is you can still see some of the remnants of all the structures. And one of those was that rebuilding in 1912. And you can see some of the sheet metal that was still out here that they covered the sides of the building with, so they helped prevent it from burning down. You can also see some of it right here. And there's some nuts and bolts and some of the wood foundation pieces all along here. It's so cool. Down here there's even more of the sheet metal from it. And walking right here, this is probably some of the outside structure of the building. When I stand down here like this, you can get an idea looking up how immense those foundations are. After we explored the large foundations and some of the remains of the mill structure, we made our way up the hill above the stamps to check out the remnants that were left up there. It was really neat to see this old stonework still here. A lot of this stonework was said to have been placed by Italian stonemasons, and in this old black and white photo, overlaid on a current image, you can see some of this stone as it was when it was part of the structure where ore was dropped off for processing. While it was definitely cool to see all the stonework, we wanted to make our way to the large water reservoir that is still on top of the hill here. But on our way, we came up to the old concrete foundations that were from the old tramway structure that was built in 1911 and brought ore from the Hayward mine in Silver City. Pretty sure the ore would come up here and get loaded in and be transferred down that way, make its way to those stamp mills. In that picture I showed you of the tramway building from down below, you could see the footers from down there. Well, this is from up here, and there's the footers that are in that picture. They're definitely pretty heavy duty. They would hold some weight for sure. According to a February 17, 1906 article in the Lyon County Times, this reservoir was in the process of being built and was meant to provide water under gravity flow to the newest mill being built on this site. You can see the outlet from this tank. Pretty good sized pipe. Then here's a concrete structure for it, and it goes down the hill. You can actually follow it all the way down the hill. So it used gravity to get the water where it needed to go. There's yet another large pipe hanging from the top, and while I'm not 100% sure, it almost appears like it was an overflow pipe in case the tank got too full. Someone's piled up some rocks so you can look inside the structure. Get a look inside there. One of the neat things about being out here is you find some cool old fastening hardware. This nail right here, I think has been around for quite a while. Put that right back where we found it. While there is a lot of cool old history with this mill, there's even some history not related to the mill itself, as is the case with this old dump area. In 1920, this mill was finally closed, and everything that was here went up to Silver City, and it was used after that as the town dump. You can see all the leftovers of different vehicles and garbage that dot the hillside here. And if you bring your dog up here, make sure you're careful because there is a lot of broken glass all through here, so you might want to just keep that in mind. And the site was the town dump from 1920 until 1954, and then it was finally sold to the Nevada Department of Transportation, and then finally in the 1970s it became a state park. A couple of wild horses on the trail just walking around out here doing their thing, and they even stopped to let us take a couple of pictures. We're very thankful. Pretty cool. I don't even think they care that we're here. We found a lot of cool old black and white photos of this mill from various years, and you've already seen a few of them, but another cool one is this old black and white overlay that is dated from 1906 and shows one of the big floods from the Carson River that happened here. You really get a good idea just how inundated with water this area was. When we were doing some research, we came across an old newspaper article that talked about the water ditches feeding the mill being a favorite swimming spot for the local kids on a hot summer day. A funny story we also came across in an 1899 issue of the Lyon County Times talks about a group of girls swimming in the ditch when a group of boys came by and were rubbernecking at them. The girls ended up hightailing it home using barrels as covers. We've seen a lot of neat things at this old mill site, And as we were walking out along the old pond berm wall, you can see where the old water gate structure and some of the related hardware was located. We also saw some of the old hardware still in place that was meant to help reinforce the berm walls when this area at one time held water. One of the last views we got of the mill area was from the same vantage point that this old photo shows. It's really impressive when you stand here looking at the scene, and at one time was a bustling mill that was completely destroyed by fire, only to be rebuilt again, and now only the remnants of a once impressive mill remain. It's truly amazing what time can erase. Well, we're really glad you came along with us on the Rockpoint Mill site. It's a really cool rundown area, a lot of cool history here, a lot of neat things to see. You just wouldn't expect that on the side of Highway 50 here in Dayton. So till next time, we'll see you later. This site, in 1920, this mill wasn't in operation until 1920. We'll see.